Welcome. I'm Kelly Kearney with Star Constellation Magazine, and with me today is Anoka actress Anna Lambe from the fourth season of Max series True Detective Night Country, which aired last night, the premiere. Welcome, Anna. The show is fantastic. I watched every episode yesterday and last night, every single
Oh,
episode.
you watched every episode. How are you feeling? What do you think? Thoughts, feelings, vibes?
I love it. We'll get into the reasons why I love it in the questions. But as a northerner person who's used to kind of snow, I'm an upstate New Yorker. I loved it. I love that eerie darkness. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. So let's go with the first question. In the fictitious town of Innis, Alaska, where this show takes place, and where this thrilling mystery unfolds. You play nursing student and young Indigenous woman Kayla, who also happens to be married to Deputy Peter Pryor, played by Finn Bennett. Uh, Fans absolutely know you from your Canadian work. You were in the Grizzlies. You starred in the Grizzlies and also in the TV series Trickster. So, how did this show, this U.S. based produced show, land in your lap?
I mean, this one was one I was in my hometown of Nunavut and I got a self-tape through, and it was for True Detective. And there just was no information as to, what the premise of the show was or the characters. It was just like, we're looking for Inupiaq talent, Indigenous talent. So, if you want to submit, or my agent had said, if we want to submit, we'll submit and see what happens. And at that point in my life, I hadn't, covered my eyes, but I hadn't watched True Detective. So I was like, I'm really not sure what I'm getting into. But I was like, you know what? Throw me in there. Let's see what happens. I was in the mix for a couple other projects, and I was like, you never know what will and won't land. Let's give it a go. Ended up auditioning and booked it. And I remember, the chem read that I had with Finn Bennett, who plays Peter Pryor. Issa, the director, is a very, straight to the point, very forward woman. And, she says what she needs to say, and then she's done. And I respect that so, so much. But we had finished the chem read and she was like, okay, that was great. Have a good day. Bye. And I was like, oh, did I make a mistake? I don't know. And I remember I like messaged my manager, because I was like, it went really well and she's so great. She's lovely. But I don't think they're interested. And I was in Germany at the time for a different chem read or a screen test. And I was like, let's move on from this one because I don't think it's gonna go our way. And within, 36 hours, they had called me and said, it was great. You have the part if you want it. Like, let's go. So really wild. And it's always the ones that you kind of think you fudge up that end up going your way.
You mentioned the chemistry, and my next question was going to be, your character, the story revolves around this strained marriage to the young deputy Peter Pryor, who's constantly pulled away from the home, from the marriage, from the child that you two have by his demanding boss, Chief Liz Danvers, who's played by Jodie Foster. When we meet your character, the dynamic is set between the couple almost instantly. There's a steamy introduction that turns into a fiery exchange. And we kind of know right away that Peter is kind of prioritizing work over family. Did you and the actor Finn Bennett you did do a chemistry, but did you have like an intimacy coordinator to make sure all of that worked out well and everything stayed authentic, because it felt authentic to me? I
Oh,
felt like
thank
we
you.
were just jumping in the middle of a long sort of drama that has been unfolding beyond our knowledge. And we
Mm.
already, from the minute we met you two, already kind of knew where we were. It's interesting.
Thank you. That is such a massive compliment, to hear that, and that it all came across exactly how we had hoped. True Detective, they, Issa and everybody took really, really good care of us. We had an intimacy coordinator for that scene. And just when doing scenes like that, where it's like boundaries are really important and consent is extremely important. We, took an afternoon or an evening to walk through every single beat of how that scene would play out. And I mean, Finn Bennett is such an incredible scene partner, and he's so kind and generous and thoughtful. And for us to kind of do the dance together was so easy with somebody who, you know, respects your space, but is also willing to give 110% as long as you are. So it was a really incredible dynamic. And, you know, for to play, you know, the kind of what would be a complicated dynamic in their relationship out to the end, with somebody who was so kind, was such a dreamy experience. And we had done a lot of rehearsals to make sure that we were on the same page of you know what our marriage was before that, where it had started, you know, having a son and the decision to like to keep a son and to raise him together. You know, all of those sort of details that people might, you know, might overlook, that there's like a whole lifetime before we meet these characters in this first episode. We had made sure to really establish where we thought we came from. And that was many rehearsals between me, Finn, and Issa. And, you know, Issa, again, as a director, is just so generous with her time and was so committed to making an incredible show. And it really shows every step of the way.
It really does. You know, like I said, the minute I met them, I kind of knew where they were in their relationship. As soon as that exchange flipped, I knew, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm kind of getting an idea of how these dynamics are working. Talking about dynamics, let's talk about the animosity between Kayla and Liz. Without any other information given, we can tell right away from their initial encounter that the two have a long and uncomfortable history. Was there a backstory that you were given? You got the script. You probably didn't get all the script, so you didn't know from beginning to end where your character was going to start and end up. So, were you given a backstory about these characters and their history? Because it definitely feels like there might be a little more there than just Kayla being jealous of Peter being pulled away from the home.
I mean, you know, Issa wrote this incredible story and all these incredible characters from her leads to her supportings. Everyone that she wrote was so layered, and what a privilege to work with a director like that. But also, you know, when you take on a character, you kind of are tasked with creating this whole lifetime for them, and you know everything that leads up to that point. And working with Issa, we had really kind of pieced together who Kayla was and what she wanted out of her life and how that may have changed with getting married and having a son. And you know, one thing that is really prevalent throughout the series is strong women who know what they want and who will do whatever they can to get what they want. So, and that's Kayla's thing as the wife to Peter. All she wants is a safe and happy family, and to be able to live a life that, you know, is fulfilling for her. And Danvers is a bit of a, you know, is a block in that, and is somebody who's kind of taking away that aspect of family that she wants so badly. And so going toe to toe with Danvers is not necessarily just over Pete or over you know, her taking her husband. It's also like, you are infringing on my life. And you know, I have hopes and I have dreams and I have things that I want for myself. And you know, you're kind of standing in the way of that. And I'm going to tell you how it is, and I'm going to express my feelings and make sure that you know that you're, you know, coming into my household is not going to fly.
And that's sort of a theme that runs out every time Danvers kind of steps into a household. She's really not welcome everywhere. You know, we have to talk about her for a second. Danvers, she's a mentor to the husband character, Peter Pryor, and like her characters, Jodie shares that energy of quote unquote fostering up and coming actors, especially young talent. We saw it with Kristen Stewart when she was younger. We're now seeing with Bella Ramsey. Star power like hers can be both dazzling and amazing and also terrifying, probably in a work setting. So, what sort of dynamic did she bring to the set that helped you put those nerves aside and just dive into those scenes?
I mean, Jodie is such an incredible leader, and she really, you know, being the icon that she is, and working with two-time Academy Award winner Jodie Foster, you know, you kind of you get that news that, you know, you got the job, and this is who's leading, and you kind of go like, oh my gosh, how do I how do you prepare for an opportunity like that? And, you know, you can think about it all day long leading up to it. But then when you actually meet Jodie and how gracious she is and how, you know, generous and thoughtful and kind. And it, you know, she has this star power, and she walks into a room and you are just in awe of her because she carries herself like the icon she is. And I love that. But she's also very relaxed, and she's calm, and she sets that tone wherever she is, and she really sets that tone on set. She's incredibly professional, and she takes her work very seriously, but she doesn't take herself too seriously. And, you know, she likes to crack jokes, and she's very sweet. And, you know, before we had even started filming, there was, you know, a big group of us. She had organized like this bus to take us out in Iceland to go and plant trees, to really like kind of set the tone for what the next 6 months would be. And so like that's just the kind of person that Jodie is. So when you kind of get to have those interactions beforehand, it takes away the pressure of like getting to set and acting across from somebody who has, you know, the most incredible accolades that you can ask for in film and television. So it, you know, of course, there's still, you put that pressure on yourself. But at the end of the day, when you kind of look at the situation and you're being mindful and self-aware, you can recognize that the only person that's putting that pressure is you, and Jodie's just existing across from you, doing her work as well. So it, you know, it at first, before we had really started, was really nerve-wracking, and I'd kind of look at my scenes in preparation, and I'd be like, oh boy, I don't know if I don't know how I'm gonna, you know, stand across from her and do this. But it, once you get there, it's a whole different experience. And Jodie's just, you know, her sort of heart and how she gives to young talent is so inspiring. And I left with no shortage of inspiration from that set.
That's fantastic. I really wondered because a lot of times stars of her caliber, they know that they have this energy that it's attached to them that maybe they don't recognize themselves, but they know it exists, and it can be daunting in a group setting, you know. And so it's wonderful to hear that she's just so, you know, she doesn't take herself too seriously while also being so serious about the work.
Mhm.
I think that's a fascinating dynamic with her. You know, last night's premiere episode was cinematic in scope and performance. Everything from the score to the set design painted just a vivid picture of this moody, remote Alaskan town during the month's longest night. The snowy and isolated darkness was visually stunning, I thought, but it also brought a certain eerie undercurrent to the story that sent a chill up my spine. How much of the shoot was on a sound stage and how much of it was in the natural elements? Because, in my opinion, it felt seamless.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I most of my stuff that I was a part of was shot on a soundstage. So thankfully, I didn't have to do too many cold nights out doing exteriors. I, you know, hats off to the crew and the cast that really like, you know, dedicated themselves to the project and were willing to accomplish the story at any means. Iceland is a pretty cold place. I mean, it obviously, because it's the setting for Alaska, but the warmth of the crew and the cast and the love that people put into this project really really made it able to see it through to the end. And I'm, from what Finn tells me, the last, I think it was about 2 months of exteriors and splits and 6 day weeks. So it's like, you know, you kind of start at like 3 in the afternoon and you go to 3 in the morning. Um, so a lot of cold nights, and we shot in Akureyri, which is the north of Iceland.
Mm.
Which if Reykjavik was cold, Akureyri was very cold.
And you're
uh,
used to the cold. You're Canadian. You're used to it.
I mean, you know what? This is what I always say. I have spent 3/4 of my life being cold. I grew up in Nunavut. I'm done being cold. I love the sun. I love the warmth.
That's
Put
so
me on a
funny.
beach. I would love to do you know, a shoot on the beach, a little rom-com on in Hawaii or something. I think that'd be really great. But yeah, I mean, a lot of this show is shot outside, and I mean with a setting as beautiful as Alaska and with a landscape as as sometimes scary. And, there's something about an openness and seeing for miles that can make people uncomfortable, because it's like you can see for miles, but then what's beyond that?
Right.
So I think True Detective really captured that sort of like barrenness and that cold and that isolating feeling so well. And even though it's something that I grew up with and that I love, and being able to see for miles is so comforting to me. I can understand for people who have never experienced it, that it's quite jarring. And I really hope that this setting, so different from the other seasons of True Detective, is refreshing and something people find a lot of interest in.
So you talked about night shoots. We have to talk because at night, like you were saying, beyond the darkness is so terrifying. It kind of adds this really what is out there, that paranormal kind of aspect to it. And snow and cold kind of gives that anyway, gives that feeling that it's quieter. It's a little bit more eerie. So we have to talk about the snow in general. Something that you mentioned as you as Canadian, me as an upstate New Yorker. I live in one of the snow. I live in the snowiest city in America. Um, so the night shoots. How did the rest of the cast and crew fare in those temperatures? Because Iceland is windy. It is very windy. It is very cold. Night is ridiculously cold. Probably. I'm guessing, like you said, you're used to it. How did everybody else do with that?
I mean, the majority of the crew was from Iceland, and True Detective being one of the biggest production Iceland's ever seen, it was like anybody who worked in film and television was working on that project. So they were real troopers, and they were used to it. And of course, they all have their big puffer jackets that they've had for years. So they fared it really well, and with so much like grace, and they were super chill about it. It was quite funny as like somebody from the Canadian Arctic to see, in like -5 degrees, some of the other castmates or crew or production who, are LA based, or who are, from much warmer areas than we are, kind of bundled up and shivering, and doing a little runny nose and kind of it's the chill today. It's just it was an interesting experience, but it also was really great to have other cast members who are from the Arctic, who are from the north, like Akka Niviana, who's from Greenland, or Isabella LeBlanc, who is from Minnesota. To kind of have that sort of like, yeah, come on guys, this is we're fine. It was really nice. And also the producers, Princess Johnson and Dugnuck Kathy, uh her last name's slipping my mind right now, but both of them being from Alaska, and finding community and kinship with them as well. And was really great.
From the volcanoes, the mountains, the glaciers, the hot springs, Iceland has this incredible, diverse landscape. Maybe one of the most beautiful and most breathtaking in the world. Did you have time to explore it beyond planting trees with Jodie Foster, which is fantastic, by the way?
Um, yeah, I mean, did when I wasn't working, I was full tourist mode. I was like, okay, I want to do like whatever the golden circle is. I want to do as many hot pool days as I can. Iceland has a really lovely culture of hot pools and saunas and swimming that I think as a Canadian, I would love to see us adopt and
Mm.
to bring over, because it is such a great area for like socializing and chit chatting and having community. And I will personally lead the charge on more hot tubs, more saunas, because I think we definitely need more of that. But Iceland, just as a country, is so incredibly beautiful, and for them to welcome us and our production, and to be so welcoming was just, hearts out to Iceland and their contributions to the show.
Absolutely. We chatted about obviously shooting with Jodie, filming in Iceland. which had to make for some extremely memorable moments for you. So, what are some of the moments in episodes, or some of the episodes that you're hoping fans really focus on? Is there a
Mm,
specific moment in an episode where you're like, I really hope that they zero in on that?
interesting. I think, I mean, and this is sort of like what we had talked about at the beginning, that, that we find once we meet these characters, we find those moments in time where we just kind of understand where they're at. And that chemistry and that history was worked in so well that we understand where they're at. I really hope like the chemistry with like our family, myself, Priors, and our son Darwin is felt. I feel like that the behind the scenes moments of creating that chemistry and going to the zoo in Iceland and spending time together and hanging out with them, it really shows on screen, and that relationship is prevalent. And I hope, kind of the relationship that myself, Finn Bennett, and Isabella LeBlanc, who plays Danvers' daughter, or
Mhm.
not Danvers' daughter, but Leah,
Yes,
um,
Leah.
uh, that we had, kind of we've developed a friendship as three, young people
Mhm.
living and living in Earth, hanging out in Iceland, and working on this project. That sort of friendship also emerges in, Kayla kind of wanting to keep a watchful eye on Leah, and Leah and Pryor having this really beautiful relationship as they both kind of deal with Danvers and her personality, that shows through as well.
I really did love the relationship between Kayla and Leah, because it felt like Kayla gave her something that she was so desperate for, and I really wanted that for her. And we'll get into that now, because the racial and cultural tensions between the different indigenous communities, divisions between indigenous people, white settlers and miners, and almost a civil like war battle brewing between generational gaps and also divides between politics, on top of each character having these wrestling moments with their own truth that they're trying to kind of ignore. The season is really layered with turmoil, I feel like. And besides, like, kind of this murder mystery that's driving the story, it brings fresh eyes, like mine, like many people, to stories that they might not normally be aware of. Indigenous people living in Alaska, they're probably not aware of. As an Indian woman and an actress, what do you hope people like me, people out there that are watching it, take from this series? Not just the paranormal part, the horror part, the thriller part, the entertainment. But is there something in this series that you hope that sticks with people who are unfamiliar?
Yeah, I mean, I hope, as an Indigenous woman, and the topic of missing and murdered Indigenous women is a topic that's very, very close to my heart, and something that I'm very personally impacted by. And I hope, like, with a platform like True Detective, and the sort of what's depicted of the violence between, Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, and how, you know, I wouldn't say we're in a post-colonial world. I'd say we're still in a colonial world. That is still like an ongoing fight, and how, Indigenous peoples are still fighting back so hard to maintain their sovereignty, to maintain their identity, to maintain their culture. Um, and this isn't just a show. This isn't just content, I guess is what I'm trying to say. This is, unfortunately, we could say, like, minus the supernatural and the scary aspect of that. But what the story is grounded in is very real, and it's something that I hope more people are conscious of. But as we acknowledge that Indigenous communities can be quite vulnerable, and the impacts of colonialism have really created gaps in the ways that our communities exist, and the access that we do have to things like, housing, or safe mental health, and all those sorts of things. that we do have strong women who know what they want, who are fighting for their communities, who are fighting for their families, and who want better for the future. Like all of these things can coexist, and we can be struggling and hurt, but we can also be strong and trying to move forward and trying to find our voices and to push forward our voices and ensure that they are heard. So I think Issa did a really beautiful job capturing that in this story. And I think, the likes of Kaylee Reese as Navarro and Isabella LeBlanc as Leah, um, they do such an incredible job, really pushing that forward. And again, I left this project with no shortage of inspiration, and I learned so much, not only about acting and making friends, but I continue to learn so much from Kaylee and Izzy and Akka and so many other people on this set about the reality of their communities. I share the reality of mine, and we create a community to grow and push forward. So I really hope that people are able to take away that from this story. And it's entertaining and it's scary and it's really cool. It's a really cool show.
Very cool.
But it's rooted in a reality, that myself, Kaylee, Izzy, Akka, any of the other Indigenous cast, that we can't separate ourselves from, and we don't just get to walk away from this story. And it's something that we carry with us for the rest of our lives. So I hope
I
that.
thank you for bringing that to our attention, because it's like I said, it's something that I was sort of familiar with, but not anywhere near what piqued my interest, and I kind of went down a hole diving into pollution and things like that in the region. And yeah, my heart broke for those women, and I won't go into detail about the story, but my heart broke for those women. And I was very proud to see so much female forward strength in that show. It was really fantastic. You can tell there's a female director and writer. You can tell that every woman that came together was strong, had a story to tell, and wanted to tell it from a female perspective. And as a woman myself, I appreciate that. Let's talk about what's next up for you. You and a fellow and younger actress, Kira Cooper, are about to star in an untitled comedy series for Netflix. And I think Anya Adams from Showtime's Yellow Jackets is producing. What, if anything, no spoilers, can you tell us about that series coming up?
Yeah, I'm so excited. I love most of my projects that I've done in the past. I love them, absolutely love. But they've all been quite dark and heavy and intense. So this project is a comedy for Netflix that I'm so excited about, because it does a really beautiful job of balancing like the social issues that we experience in the North, while also really highlighting the humor and the love and the community that we have, to navigate all of it. um Anya Adams will be directing, and I got to meet her while I was in LA for the True Detective premiere, she's such a dream, and so just so great, and asking me about my opinions on things and wanting to collaborate. And I'm just like, Anya, we are going to have a really, really wonderful relationship. The producers behind that show, Alethea Angel-Baril, Stacey Ackles McDonald, and Miranda DePontier, are actually the producers behind the first project that I ever did called The Grizzlies. So it's been like a really incredible full circle moment
Yeah.
to work with them again at this point in my career. And my first ever job has now led to leading a Netflix series. So I'm beyond excited, and it's just good things keep on coming. It's going to be a really good year.
I think it's going to be a great year. And I noticed you have about 14,000 followers on your social media. And I have a feeling this morning you probably have some more. And after Netflix, you're probably going to have a lot more. So, is there anything you'd like to say to those fans who followed you from the Grizzlies to now to your next project and are really excited about future 2024 and all the things you're going to do? What would you like to say to them?
Thank you for following me through all the growth. There's been so much growth. Every sort of experience that has happened the past few years, some really, really great ones. And as a lot of people who have been following me for a long time know, some also really not great ones in this industry, and that's all been a part of growing, not only as an actor but as a person. And I, you know, want to highlight Inuit and my community who have, you know, supported me from the very beginning. I'm so grateful to have my community by my side at all times, and I will always give back in any way that I can. So yeah, 2024 is gonna be
That's
a
your
cool
year.
one.